Welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I am your host, Marcus Blake, and joined with me, as always, is the Brewing Sailor, Brendan Smith.
Good morning, everybody.
And we got Chad Womack from the Electric Jellyfish podcast.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
And Jimmy Alford is back with us again. So,
okay. Hands.
All right. So we got a very special episode for you in the midst of current news, movies that are out, blah, 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 and stuff that, we were not really going to talk about. But with all the talk of sequels, and Beetlejuice just got a sequel, we figured it'd be kind of fun to talk about what are our top 5 sequels of all time, like direct sequels, and then the 5 worst sequels of all time. So this is going to be a 2-part show. The first one, we're going to talk about our favorite sequels that are just outstanding. And here are the rules, just so that we're a little bit clear on how this works. It has to be a direct sequel to a movie, or to the movie that started the franchise. And we're automatically going to take 2 movies off the list because, as nerds, we all pretty much agree that these 2 sequels are perfection, and they're going to be in everybody's top 5 list. And those 2 movies are The Empire Strikes Back and The Godfather Part 2. And for fans out there that might disagree, you're an idiot.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're just wrong.
Empirically.
Yeah. We have no faith in you and humanity anymore.
You are technically incorrect, the worst kind of incorrect.
Yeah.
To borrow a phrase.
Yeah, there is a friend of the show and our outlet who I've interviewed numerous times, director William Kaufman. First time I interviewed him, and we were talking about the films that influenced him to be a writer and director, he just said, Empire Strikes Back. That's all I need to say. There's nothing else to explain. Empire Strikes Back. And you're like, yeah, but we know, we get it. And I feel like The Godfather Part 2 is very similar when you have dual storylines going on. So,
the problem is, right, it's like you have like super great franchises should have super great sequels. And there are a few that didn't make on my list just because I don't consider them actual sequels. I consider like the trilogy, the actual, like the sequels in the trilogy, just part of the whole thing. Like Lord of the Rings. It is just Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yes, if you open up the two towers, the first page is like page 345 because the first 344 pages are the Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, it's just all one book. So
exactly. So like for that type of sequel, doesn't make my list because it's like those are a great movie.
Yeah,
1 movie, 3 movies to make 1 trilogy. So just me, maybe.
Okay, well, she's clear. Okay. Anyway, sorry, we're having a little technical issues and stuff like that, but we're gonna roll with it. Okay.
Without it.
Yeah, but that's how we do it. But before we get to talking about our favorite all-time sequels as nerds, we do have to do this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. And we have double this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is related to the new Harry Potter series that's coming to HBO Max. Now, I know what you're thinking. That in itself is this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, but it is not.
No, because there was an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Sadly, I believe it's slipping by the wayside.
It gets squandered.
If you're like us and you're wondering why there needs to be a reboot on a streaming service, when the movies are great.
Money.
Yeah, exactly. I guess they have to recoup their expenses from losing out on, DC movies, but whatever.
Batgirl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was my outside voice again. I'm sorry.
I almost feel like Batgirl should be released at this point just for Mystery Science Theater 3000. Come on. All right.
Or at least
Yeah, but then they would actually make a profit off of it, and so they would get me in trouble for taking it as a tax write-off. So, yeah.
All right. So, the showrunner and director Andy Greenwald was quoted as saying last week about the new Harry Potter TV series that he does not like the idea of rigorous adaptation of the books, and has also claimed that he has never read the books. So, yeah, that's a good place to start when you're writing a fantasy series, not to have rigorous adaptation of the source material.
So look, I got two thoughts on this for me. Like, okay, it doesn't have to be super rigorous, all right? Like, first of all, Peter Jackson's adaptations of The Lord of the Rings was not super rigorous, right?
Yep.
Tom Bombadil was not included. The elves never show up at Helm's Deep in the books. It was not Isildur who defeated Sauron. It was Elendil and Gil-galad. It was only Isildur who cut off the ring once he was already dead. Like, so it was not a strict adaptation. However, it was a strict adaptation in the sense of themes and timeline. Okay, so that's why these little minor things, we as fans glossed over it because, yeah, okay, it's not a 100% strict adaptation, but it's probably the best we're ever going to get on film, despite what Amazon might tell you. Moving on. But to say you haven't read the books. Now, look, I have not read the Harry Potter books because when they came out, I was already in the Navy. Okay. I didn't even know they were coming out. But nobody's trying to hire me to do an adaptation either. You'd hire my wife to do the adaptation because she's read all the damn books and she knows the source material. You can't even begin to adapt something if you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's not adaptation, that's fan fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. And that, by the way, going back to Lord of the Rings, that's exactly what Amazon has right now. Really bad fan fiction. Right. Okay. If you're shipping Sauron and Galadriel together, you might as well be shipping the Virgin Mary and Satan, you dumb fucks.
Well, okay, look.
And South Park creators, we are giving you ideas.
Yes, please. Oh, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, run with that. You have my blessing. God bless you. Just think of me fondly in the credits. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm just saying,
the Pandaverse.
at least paying attention to the source material in passing, isn't that just professionalism? Isn't that just
you would think.
research?
You're doing your fucking homework is what.
No, because here's the thing. And okay, yes, in a real world, yes, but in modern Hollywood, going for modern audiences, which don't fucking exist, the same audiences throughout history because human nature doesn't fucking change. So, but everybody wants to do this thing where we're gonna put our own spin on it. No,
I hate
don't
that.
put your spin on it. If you want to put your spin on a trope or an idea or a story, write your fucking own shit, you talentless hack.
Yes, yes. You know why?
Marcus does this. Marcus, he writes his own stuff. He says, gee, I really like this, but I think I can do something different that hasn't, not that I can do it better or that I can make your work better, but I think I can create my own unique work that takes your idea, puts a slight spin on it, and gives somebody else something they might like.
Right.
That's an artist.
And by the way, when you're real world building in your own created universe, it's fun to get together with friends that help you out with those themes and get drunk. So, there's a bright side to creating your own stuff and doing it with people that will help you. But that's the point.
I think Marcus just became Hemingway's spirit animal.
Yeah. If you're wondering why I haven't gotten much writing done lately, I haven't. I'm out of whiskey, so I figured I would just. I write when I drink whiskey. I edit sober. That's the rule.
That's probably a good method. Write drunk, edit sober, because if you write sober, edit drunk,
yeah.
Some weird shit. You're gonna end up with a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, but Andy Greenwald,
Hunter S. Thompson.
you're already a fucking moron. Okay, just stop. You've already ruined it, and you've already made us not care. I mean, HBO already made us not care because you're trying to reboot something that's already great, and even the Fantastic Beast movies, are decent. Okay, if you
I will say this: when I said at the beginning that there was a opportunity here.
Yeah.
One of the biggest fans of Harry Potter on the planet is sitting about 6 feet from me, my wife. Okay. She is Hufflepuff ride or die. Okay. I am a Ravenclaw. I have a Ravenclaw. Actually, I have it in my pocket. Here's my Edge wallet. Okay.
Lord.
All right. So, she has multiple editions of not only the DVD box set, but the actual book box set, has read them all. And even she said, I'm not against them doing an HBO show, because if they do one book at a time per season, they can really dive into some things, because you're going to get, anywhere from 6 to 10 hours per book, depending on the length of the season, length of the episodes, to where you really can dive into some of the things that J.K. Rowling wrote, but were never shown in the movies. And so she was all for that. But that would preclude that you were doing a rigorous adaptation of the books.
Hey, you know what? Something that you could do that would be interesting as a series, if you wanted to do a prequel, even though we all know how it turns out, I'd be all right with, Harry's parents and the original Order of the Phoenix and leading up to it. I mean, it's like, would it be as good? Maybe not, but it's something that you can do. And there is plenty of great stories that
you could learn from the roadmaps of what Lucas got right and got wrong with the prequels and Star Wars, and use that as a map to how to navigate those issues.
Yeah.
Real
Jimmy,
quick.
go.
Yeah.
So since your wife is so close, maybe you can give some insight, because I am not the biggest Harry Potter fan either. My wife is, but I don't know any Harry Potter fans who are asking for this either.
Yeah.
That, like you said, your wife doesn't mind that it's happening as long as it's good, but no one is like.
Well, I think there's
the doors.
So
make this.
Nobody was pounding the doors, but here's the thing: you've got a company that is dying for money, and they have one of the biggest IPs on the planet. They're going to do it. And but here's, like I said, there was an opportunity to bring in those fans. There absolutely was, because there was stuff, and I've heard a lot of Harry Potter fans talk about this, of how much was left out of the movies.
Sure.
And if you like big movies like this, and I'll give you a great example. Marcus knows that my biggest disappointment of maybe the last 15 years in pop culture is when they announced the Jack Ryan series on Amazon, and it wasn't going to be a, let's borrow that phrase again, rigorous adaptation of the novels. I wanted the Jack Ryan series on Amazon to take each Tom Clancy novel, and Tom Clancy novels are, they're chewy. They're 1,000 pages long. Okay. You could take the Cardinal of the Kremlin and start and make one season 10 episodes long just of the Cardinal of the Kremlin, and then you could go forward from there and do Hunt for, or Patriot Games, then Hunt for Red October, and then Dead of Honor, and then Executive Orders, etc., etc., etc.
Red Storm Rising would take like 2 seasons by itself.
And and
made it a period piece for anybody that complains that you really can't do that. Fuck
the Americans.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Tom Clancy movies have already been done. Yes, they were already very good. But I've been clamoring for them to do a rigorous adaptation through streaming of the Clancy novels, one season at a time. I know, like I said, my wife would have been all on board for that. And if that's not what we're getting, I guarantee you it's going to go over like a wet fart in church with Harry Potter fans.
Yeah, and at this point, it's a non-starter. Don't waste the money. Give it to something else.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as you can tell, we already don't care about this series, so it'll be pretty much chunked in the same, trash bin as Rings of Power. Which I will admit that Rings of Power did get better with season 2, but they didn't have anywhere to go but up. So not saying much. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before you go forward, since you mentioned Rings of Power, the season you've heard about the isn't there a new gay love story that a lot of fans are kind of tilting their heads at?
I don't know. at this point, I can't deal with who's upset with what or whatever about this. But that also leads into why people will get upset about the stupidest of things. So, this week's Sound of the Apocalypse, part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Actress Jodie Turner-Smith from The Alkalite, who played the head witch, and she is African American and all that. And by the way, I am not knocking her acting ability when we talk about this because I actually liked her in Bad Monkey. But anyway, she was quoted as saying this past week regarding the cancellation, she hopes fans stop having a stick up their arse about people of color being a part of IPs that were created by white people. Yes, that's exactly why we hated The Alkalite. There were too many black people in the show. And by the way,
because we all hated Lando and
Or
Mace
Desmond
Windu,
and all of these
and nobody cheered when the actor whose name escapes me right now, and I apologize to Ahmed Best, when Ahmed Best got a chance to be Kelleran Beck in Mandalorian and got to be the hero instead of the punchline from the prequels. Yeah, nobody cheered for him for that.
That's right.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. You do not get to keep playing the race card as an excuse for shitty storytelling. You were in a bad show. Okay? The indictment are the writers, Kathleen Kennedy, and everybody who wrote such fucking tripe, okay, that ruined the lore and everything else. And by the way, I actually, we didn't even complain about your performance. We had nothing to say about your performance in the show.
All we said about was the writing was trash.
Yeah. But here's the problem, okay? When you and Amanda Steinberg start complaining about race, you look ridiculous, okay? And then you make us lose respect for you because now you're just crying foul and always playing the race card that if we don't like you, it's because we're racist.
We're bigots. Yeah, we're just bigots.
So yeah, go fuck yourself. Just shut up. You were in that show. Move on.
Take the loss. Take the L and move on.
It also, unfortunately, for everyone who does not feel that way about race, it basically minimizes their legitimate gripes.
Yeah, yeah. And
you have just minimized all of these would-be fans, their criticisms. You have just said your criticisms don't matter. So we're
By the way,
this experience
you're also criticizing all the same people, all the same fans that defended John Boyega when Disney made him this big on the China poster.
Yeah. We don't hate the actors. And by the way, for everybody that complained about that argument, a movie that John Boyega was awesome in and we love his character? Yeah, Attack of the Block. Who was the hero? And I can't wait for the sequel to that movie.
And honestly, he should have gotten a better, the whole, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but the whole cast of the sequel trilogy was done dirty. Okay. They made Rey infallible, which is always a bad idea because your hero needs something to overcome. Okay. She can't be great at everything all the time. They should have never split the big three apart. They should have had Rey fixing the Falcon while Poe was piloting the Falcon and Finn was firing the blasters. That would have made sense. Okay. And, for Poe to be able to outfly the TIE fighters, for Finn to be able to fend them off because he knows how to shoot, and for Rey to save them by fixing the hyperdrive because she's lived in these systems for her whole life scavenging them. That would have made sense, right? It would have made everything great. And then, okay, if you want her to be the more powerful one, fine, I'm cool with that. But then let's have Finn also be a Jedi because you built him up and got all the fans excited that he was going to be a Jedi through all of the marketing. And you did that shit on purpose and then did a bait and switch on us. So have him be her apprentice, okay? She's going to be the more powerful one, but he's got this latent power that he hasn't really figured out because it was suppressed by the First Order. You know, this would have made for really cool, compelling storytelling. But no, we couldn't have that because we can't have nice things with Kathleen Kennedy in charge.
Well, and unfortunately, the people complaining about the cancellation of this show and the fans' reaction, your argument's not with the fans. Your argument is the fact that you were in a show that was written badly by people. Complain about that. Here's the thing. Actors end up in bad shows. They end up in movies that are not very good. You do it for the paycheck. If you're starting out, you're going to do a lot of bad movies until you're recognized. I love the fact that Jennifer Aniston owns to the fact that she was in the Leprechaun movie and it's a shit movie. Okay. But you got to start somewhere. It's just stop with the rate. You're the only one that's looking ridiculous with crap like this. So, but hey, if that's what you want to complain about and that's how you want to justify that nobody likes the show that I was in, fine, whatever. Okay. But now we can't take you seriously in anything that you do.
Nor will we ever.
So
And I'm just so tired of the gaslighting of fans. Like, put out good material or shut the hell up.
yeah,
Because it's just, you know, there are so many, oh, they didn't like it because they were racist. Okay, well, explain to me then why Andor, which had an extremely diverse cast,
Yeah.
okay, which featured a lesbian couple, is widely considered outside of Mando seasons 1 and 2 and Andor, which also had an extremely diverse cast, and, you know, or I should say Rogue One, which Andor is based off of, which also had an extremely diverse cast, are the most, you know, beloved things within Disney Star Wars. And hell, even Mando, Pedro Pascal ain't a white man. Gina Carano ain't a white man.
hey, you know
What's
what?
his face? Carl, what's his, I can't remember his name now. Carl Weathers, R.I.P., not a white man. So Mando was extremely diverse, and we all loved Mando seasons 1 and 2. So please stop using this bullshit gaslighting argument. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't stand up to practical application. In other words, you're full of shit.
Yeah,
It's victim blaming.
yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah.
The fans, you're victim blaming.
right. And it makes it even worse because now when you need people like us to give you press or interviews or whatever, we don't care. Because I will say this, as a professional, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but we have come across. I've interviewed a ton of filmmakers over the last decade, and there are some that I will literally never interview again. Like, you are not worth my time. I don't care how famous, how big you are. I don't care if you get an Oscar. And there are some that are just so bad to begin with that we would never, that I have turned it down before it even started. Like, it's not worth my time. So now you go in that list where we just don't care about you. Okay. Like, we'll interview everybody else because we don't have respect for you anymore. So just shut the fuck up. Okay. And move on.
That and your guard goes up because you're afraid that no matter what you do, they're going to carve you up behind, you know, as soon as you say something that they don't agree with, then they just kind of, you know, reverse the whip on you. I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to take the risk.
What you can do is when something doesn't hit that you're in, even if it's in a beloved franchise, move on to the next project. And that's what I say about, Turner Smith. I liked you in Bad Monkey. I really did, as the green dragon or the voodoo priestess that you were playing. You were really good. But now I don't care because you say stupid shit like this. So anyway, and that's our lesson for the day, kids. Don't say stupid shit and play the race card when that has nothing to do with it. Also, it should be pointed out, because when we talked about we did our Star Wars show, and I jokingly would ask 4 white males who, if it was really about race, jokingly, because I know the answer. we don't side with the small minority Ku Klux Klan hood, white hood wearing motherfuckers that might like this and don't want anybody of race in their shows. They're not us. They are not part of this group, or we do not acknowledge them.
I think we just said that we really liked Andor and Rogue One and Mandalorian, which were all very diverse and had gay people in it. And we don't care about that stuff as long as the acting's good, the effects are good, the story is good, and the overall presentation is good. I don't care who you sleep with as either personally or as a character, as long as you present a good story.
I did an interview today, and it'll be out by the time people have seen this show with director Jane Clark for her new movie Witchy Ways, kind of a romantic comedy dealing with witches, which was kind of cute. And the two main characters are lesbians or whatever. And we talked about, was it important for the characters to be that? And she was very honest. It's like, no, I wasn't trying to make a statement with the characters. It's not that big of a deal. It's just two people who fancy each other and happen to fall in love or whatever. And I'm like, and that's what it should be. And for us nerds, a really gay character that we all love, and he's phenomenally nice. Yeah, John Barrowman. Okay.
Yeah.
We've never had a problem with Captain Jack.
Captain Jack Harkness.
Sir.
Hello. Stop it. I was just saying hello. You're never just saying hello.
Right. Well, anyway.
My wife just laughed off screen for that, by the way.
We are going to move on from this week's Side of the Apocalypse and talking about idiots who should just keep their mouths shut. And we're going to talk about our top 5 sequels of all time and see if we match as 4 nerds and stuff like that. All right. We're going to start at number 5 on the list. And I'm going to go around the circle here. And Chad, what is your number 5 sequel? What, you didn't write out the list ahead of time? Did you not do your homework?
Yeah, I did. I just I said I was going to be
playing Fortnite and didn't do your homework.
Well, guilty of that. But I'm going to go way unconventional here, and I'm probably going to get some side eye from at least one of you, if not all of you. Tron Legacy.
First of all, you get no side eye from me because I love Tron Legacy.
I mean, is this you, Jimmy, giving me side eye? If for no other reason, okay, allow me to explain. If for no other reason, because I was expecting it to suck. As long as that movie gestated and turned over and just the ending of that movie gets me every stinking time I watch it. The whole confrontation with Clue at the bridge and the he's my son, and it tears me to shreds. I wasn't expecting for that kind of emotional reaction from myself. I was just stunned by it. Visually, they kind of make a departure from the original, look, the overall conceptual design, and I had no problem with it. And I wasn't expecting the story to be that good. I was just expecting it to be kind of like, oh God, that happened, But I was so pleasantly surprised with it that it's something that I go back to and watch again and again and again and again and again.
See, I can't disagree with that. I actually really love that movie, and I watched it again a few months ago because it is one of the better things on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I regret not seeing it in the theater. That's probably my biggest thing, is that I just like, whatever, I'll wait for this. And then I saw it and I'm like, shit, I should have gone to see it.
You're talking about like emotional scenes. Like I absolutely love the ending. They foreshadow him showing her a sunset, and the very last scene is them on the bike.
Yeah, and she just kind of leans into him as the music swells, and I was like, golly, it was so well made. I just
in that movie,
I've just been a soft spot for it.
That movie also makes you really want a third. It makes you excited for a trilogy.
Until they cast Jared Leto in it. And
my God, stop with Jared Leto.
I have a lot of faith in it. So
the only side eye that I have for that movie is because it came around in the whole era of 3D movies or everything, and it was not done well as a 3D movie. So that's just it.
This is where that doesn't bother me because I refused to watch 3D movies back at that point because they always gave me a headache. So I just went to see it 2D and I enjoyed it just fine.
Yeah, the 3D wasn't even a factor for me. It just,
Also, and they brought Bruce Boxleitner back, and as a huge Babylon 5 fan, Captain Sheridan rules. So
yeah. Also, I think that movie has one of the greatest lines, and just a knock on any company that never improves the previous version. Well, what's different about this year's version? We put an 11 on the box.
no, put on box.
Or 12 on the box.
Like, hello, Madden.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like,
Every EA Sports game, and that's literally what FIFA FC 25 is.
when that line got uttered, I became the Leo meme.
Yeah,
I know.
I got that reference. It's you become Steve Rogers too.
That was my first thought when I did a quick little review of FC 25, because I'm like playing another season with my two careers, and I'm like, oh, good, you basically made the same game. So I can continue with this game for a little while longer until this version is like $20. So,
and let's also not forget the phenomenal soundtrack by Daft Punk on that.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good God.
Really, that makes me disappointed about this one coming up because Daft Punk broke up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
So, all right. Sorry, we lost Jimmy for a moment. We'll see if we can get him back. But real quick, Brendan, what is number 5 on your list?
I'm going to give an honorable mention first, just because it's basically the same movie, but just done better with a better budget. And that's Evil Dead 2.
I don't even know that deserves to be on the list.
I mean, I got to give it at least an honorable mention. I don't know if I could actually give it number 5, but because, like I said, it's basically the same movie. It's just done with a better budget, but it's Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell at their absolute best. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe they peaked with Army of Darkness, but Evil Dead 2 is fantastic. So we're gonna put that up there. My number 5 is gonna be Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Okay, all right, I will give you that. I give you that. Okay,
because Ricardo Montalban quoting Shakespeare.
Yeah,
I mean, he was so good. He had such gravitas as a villain. And we've often lamented this on this show, but to have a great hero, you have to have an equally great villain. And is there a better villain than Montalban's Khan out there? I mean, he is so iconic across multiple generations.
Yeah, that's actually my number 2 on the list. Like, I put one movie ahead of it because, and we'll get to that in a moment, but out of like direct sequels, if you can't do Empire Strikes Back, you got to do the next best thing in The Wrath of Khan in that list. And it's an amazing movie. So, all right. I'll get to my number 5 in a minute, but Jimmy, since you're back, what is number 5 on your list?
Sorry, it took me a second to get back. My wife just came back from Illinois.
Okay. Was she facing off with Illinois Nazis? Because we hate Illinois Nazis on this show.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Number 5, personal favorite of mine, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh my
God. Good.
Okay. I need to clarify. So we can do third and fourths in the movies. Okay.
No.
Oh, that's right, because you're right. That's right. I forgot about that.
First of all,
Temple of Doom's a prequel. That's right.
I will agree with you. It is the better sequel. Okay, but I'm talking about movies that are sequels. Technically, Temple of Doom is.
No, Temple of Doom is a prequel. It happens before Raiders.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
I'm going by the letter of the law. I'm
let you slide on this one. I was actually referring to the movies that come out, but I get you. You're using a loophole, and I appreciate it.
That's right. Technically correct is the best type of correct.
That's right.
All right,
but it's number 5. It's one of my personal favorites. I grew up watching it, and honestly, look, it's the best. It's the best of really that series. You got Raiders, and then you got you got Temple of Doom. It's good. It's just not. It's okay. Crusaders. I'm sorry. It's just.
Last Crusade is my favorite because of the father-son element, and
100%.
You know, getting to see in the theater with my dad and my grandfather, and it was about right before my grandfather got cancer and started, you know, it took a couple of years and all that. So it was a lot of fun. I still think Raiders is the better movie though.
As close to perfect as a film gets.
Yeah, it really is. Pacing, everything about it, amazing. And yes, the documentary about the kids doing a shot-for-shot remake and that story is phenomenal.
Greatness.
All right, we'll give you that on your loophole. So I'm not putting.
It's the only loophole I have that I'm going to use.
I'm not putting an Indiana Jones movie in my top 5. I got a lot of honorable mentions. It's funny that I actually came up with a top 10. But here's what I'm going to put at number 5. I'm going to put Rocky 2, and here's why. He wins. It's in a great emotional movie. The choreography was obviously a lot better from the first. I don't think it's a better movie than the first, because the first is so emotional and about him going the distance and everything about it. But with a bigger budget, they were able to do more with the movie. I also love the fact that Carl Weathers and Sylvester Stallone were so competitive, and shots that landed that the scene at the end of the first round where they're actually pushing and shoving and they're having to break each other and they're having to break them up was actually real. That's really about to have a fight. It's a great movie. And because all right, it looks like Jimmy is on wife duty for a little while, but we're sure he's going to pop back in. But I'm also going to segue a little bit. If we're talking about direct Rocky sequels, so to speak, my honorable mention with it is Creed 2. Because Creed 2 is an amazing movie. Everybody was great. I love them having, Dolph Lundgren back. I love the scene in the restaurant. I'm going to break your boy. And I really wish there's 2 deleted scenes in that movie that should have been in the original cut. The actual fight scene at the hospital between Rocky and Ivan. And then at the very end, when they are done with the fight, Adonis sits down and, Baby Drago is crying and just very emotionally tells him, we are more than just one fight. And they kind of move on. And there's that scene with Rocky looking at Drago and Drago just nodding that our animosity is over and they can move on. So I threw that at number 5 just because I love the Rocky movies and I'm a huge boxing fan. And, and it was my non-strict nerd movie that I had to throw at. So
it's solid. I mean,
a solid choice.
No arguments for me. I mean, it was actually, I had 2 lists. I have my top 5 list and I have a guilty pleasure list, and it's on my guilty pleasure list, which I guess is the same.
You know what? If you're doing a guilty pleasure list, Brendan will agree with me because I believe we did the press screening for it. Red 2.
Oh,
Not
sure.
as good as the first one, but still very funny.
Getting a pig. Well, actually, that's the first one, but still.
I'm sorry, but on my guilty pleasure list, since just caveat here, Lethal Weapon 2, because of the lines, diplomatic immunity at the end, shoots him.
It's just been revoked.
It's just been revoked. And I'm sorry, it's
That's
like
an 80s line. That is so
What happened to him? He was decaffeinated.
Just one of the best. I mean, like, it is not a good movie, but
no, I almost say that in my top 5 just because
hey, it might not be good cinema, but it's a great movie.
Yes, it is.
Sure, yeah,
it is. All right, getting to number 4 on our list. Chad, what is your number 4?
I'm going to the same director I went to for my number 5.
Really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. You got to throw in a little Top Gun Maverick, huh?
Got to have Top Gun Maverick in there because nobody expected that movie to be that fun.
No.
Nobody gave that movie. I don't think anyone gave it a shot in hell at being that entertaining.
No.
I went and saw that movie in the theater more times than I've seen any movie in the last 10 years combined. I went and saw that movie twice in one day.
Dude, girlfriend of mine, we went to go see it. She was like, I don't know if I want to. And then like 2 weeks later, let's go back to the movies and watch Top Gun Maverick. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Is that before or after sex? Oh.
It's probably the best thing I've ever seen Tom Cruise do. And
I that's actually, if we were doing a top 10, it would be my number 6, just because I have what I consider like nerd movies like ahead of it. But I agree with you. It ended up, when we voted that year, like the top 10 movies of 2022, I mean, it just, everybody voted for it. It's like there was no reason it should have been that good. And the way they connected to the original, the scene with Val Kilmer that just brings eyes. It's like, and even when people complain, well, the end of the movie is just like the Death Star wrote. We don't fucking care.
who cares? Jesus.
So you mean your knock on it is that it not only pays an homage to Top Gun, but it pays an homage to Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
That's your negative.
Yeah.
You know the funny thing is, I said this in my review that the reason it wasn't perfect is I wasn't a huge fan at the time of the Lady Gaga song. I mean, I do like the song, but the more I've listened to it, especially the instrumental version that they play, towards the end when he lands on the plane, I'm like, that really is a good song for that movie. It's not You Lost That Loving Feeling.
But it's also not as irritating as hearing dur 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 over and over and over and over. I was so sick of Berlin. I was like, I can't wait for that one to fall.
Here's a pop quiz. Can you name any other song by Berlin? Yeah, exactly.
I know the song, but I couldn't give you the fucking name of the damn.
Well, because nobody.
We make love together. All that shit. That's the only
We
one.
don't care.
Maverick.
To quote Mike Tomlin, we do not care.
Doesn't matter. Not important.
All right, Jimmy. Before your wife calls you real quick and you have to take another short break, what is your number?
Real quick, but while I was gone, what were the number 5s for you two? Just real quick.
No, I was Rocky too.
Chad and
Honorable mention to Creed too.
okay.
And Brendan was Star Trek too.
Okay.
Was my number.
So,
my number.
sorry. Number 5. Number 5 for me is going to be Star Trek 4. Way out there, I know, but I'm sorry. Star Trek number 4, Voyage Home. Spock is alive again. He's coming home. He's learning to be a Vulcan again. We got space whales and transparent aluminum.
Okay. That one, I do totally get to call you out on, because by your logic, it's not a prequel. It's not a direct sequel. Oh,
We're talking sequels here. You're not into 4.
Oh, okay, fine. Wrath of Khan. That was going to be higher in my list, but I will just do it. Wrath of Khan.
Judge Julie, I will concede Last Crusade as a linear timeline, but you can't use the same logic. However, you're absolutely right about A Voyage Home. It is a great movie.
Yeah.
Wait,
But,
Brendan.
okay, Wrath of Khan. I mean,
Brendan.
it is. It
Just right in the fridge.
I'm almost like expecting to see a hand come across here, like Aaron's.
Yeah, whoa.
That was great, dude.
All right.
It was so smooth. Just
This should have come with a rule book.
All right, Brendan.
kind of aware there would be math involved in this
What
shit.
is number 4 for you?
So number 4, I'm going to throw another honorable mention out just real quick. Star Trek First Contact, because it is the sequel to Generations, and it is the best of the Next Generation movies. So that's an honorable mention. We won't discuss it further. Just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah.
My number 4 is your number 5, Rocky 2.
All right. All right.
And since we've already discussed it, we'll move on.
Cool. All right. Rocky 2. All right. So I got to get into superhero movies now, but it's not what you think. Captain America, Winter Soldier, because
Damn you, I'm going to have to change mine now.
No, you can keep it the same. It's fine if we have them the same.
Direct sequel to the first Captain America movie. And
It is.
it is the best of the Marvel movies, in my opinion. I mean, and the end game, the Infinity War movies are great, but standalone, everything, great storytelling. Winter Soldier is phenomenal.
And if you want gravitas, I mean, you got Robert Redford to play in a Marvel movie.
No,
Oh
who
shit!
also plays
And play a villain in a Marvel movie.
Very gets type.
Yeah. So I got to throw that out there. Yeah. Captain America Winter Soldier. So, I mean, am I wrong to have that in a list? No.
Not at all. Not at all. Because it was going to be
there's
fine,
really
but
no
I'm
good argument against
going to
it.
sub it.
Yeah. I mean, if we didn't have any rules about like just any kind of sequel, I mean, I would go Spider-Man No Way Home because that movie's amazing too. But sadly, yeah. All right. Moving to number 3. We're getting down the list here. Chad, we're going to start with you on number 3.
Aliens.
Okay.
That low?
Oh, got to have a 2 and a 1 somehow. So this is not an easy list. It was see to me, I'm basically going with movies that sequels that are direct sequels that I wasn't expecting to be nearly as good as they were.
Right. Yeah, that's the rule. When you're talking about sequels, are they as good or better than the original?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to ask.
And that considering that Aliens was a completely different type of beast, literally and figuratively, that you went from a horror movie in outer space, basically a haunted house film in outer space, to this straight up high adrenaline, pure octane freaking thrill ride that I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is even set in the same universe. And I think
I know
that and I feel like it kind of set the tone for future sequels that they were never able to come close to. But just Cameron just took this shit to another level
that's actually my number 3 too. Yeah, Aliens was an automatic on that list because
it's got to be.
Yeah, that's because I feel like you don't even have to watch the first Alien movie.
Nope.
You could just throw Aliens on the background. Phenomenal cast, great action, great lines. Bill Paxton, one of Bill Paxton's best movies. Yeah, game over, pal.
You're dog meat, pal.
I know. It's just
what the fuck we're talking about this for.
You know what's funny? I had a friend say this one time that his character in Aliens is what Chet from Weird Science would have become.
Yes, absolutely. I totally
Marines.
Yep.
He was chanting a little of Chet from Weird Science.
Don't make yourself one, dickweed.
Oh man, God, I miss Bill Paxton.
I do too.
I feel like if he was still alive, then they would have really made a direct sequel with the Twisters movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also made a great villain in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before he passed away.
Yes, he did. So, all right. Well, Aliens is my number 2, or I mean, my number 3 as well. Also, Sigourney Weaver, badass as usual.
Oscar-nominated performance, which blows my mind to this day.
I know.
Because films like that never got recognized for their acting performances, ever. Not films in that genre.
So
the performance was that good.
All right, Jimmy, what is your number 3?
Well, I'm just gonna come right out here and say Aliens is not my number 3. No spoilers yet. My my number three is actually Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. It's the
Wow.
best of all the Mad Max movies. Period.
You know
It's
what?
better than the first one. No, and it's not the new ones. Of like, it's when you go original, it's better than Thunderdome. It is, I think, it's better than the newest movie. The newest movie is still great. I love it, and of course, Fury Road is really good. But if you're going to go classic, if you're going to go sequel, it's still like heart and soul, true Mad Max. It's an awesome, awesome movie.
In there. That answers my question. No, cannot disagree with you. It's the best element. I'm not even a huge fan of the first Mad Max movie to begin with. I mean, it's
Come on, you don't like the saxophone solo? Like, come on, man. It's
well,
like
it doesn't feel like. I mean, it's a great low budget fun movie. It doesn't feel like a Mad Max movie. That's how I feel about it. So
Why
I'm
did
like,
that strike me so funny?
I just kind of when I go back and watch them, I'm like, I don't really have to watch that again. I just go right into the Road Warrior. So
I would love to do a Mystery Science Theater watching of the first Mad Max movie because I believe it is 100% one of the best movies to do that for.
oh god, yeah,
Uh,
the first one is so great because of what you're able to do, you know, with a small budget, and it is phenomenal in that way. But from a storytelling standpoint and really showing off a dystopian world and doing Fury Road and all that, that's the Road Warrior, you know. So anyway,
I do have an honorable mention for this spot in particular, though. Number three, like Evil Dead 2, what is going to be like my guilty pleasure.
That was my number 5 on
Yeah.
that
Oh,
list.
yeah, I mean, it just is. It's so good. It doesn't make this list, but if it did make this list, it would still rank at least mid-level on it.
yeah.
I know it's a weird argument, but
No, I'm right there with you.
how I feel.
Dude, I put it on number 5. It's not weird to me. I
I
love me some Sam Raimi.
As do
Yeah.
I.
So,
all right. Brendan, what is number 3 for you?
so I'm going to give you another honorable mention again, and this time it's going to be Winter Soldier. I put it at 6. I really wanted to put it on the list, but I couldn't. But my number 3, going back old school, Sean Connery from Russia with Love.
See, I almost did that. It's still my
You're
favorite.
one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Thank you, but I think my mouth is too big. No, it's the right size. For me, that is.
I almost did it, but it's kind of an honorable mention just because I didn't want to throw in a Bond film compared to everything else. And
I had to. I grew up like, all right, for those who don't know, my first movie experience that I remember in a theater was actually at a drive-in, the Rustic Drive-In on Route 146 in Lincoln, Rhode Island. My sister took me there in the summer of '83 because my mother was losing her freaking mind because I was driving her nuts. So my sister was 15 years or 11 years older than me. She's going to yell at me for saying 15, but she's 11 years older than me. She drives me out there. We go see James Bond in Octopussy and Return of the Jedi.
Jesus.
yeah,
June of '83.
Wow.
Beautiful thing. Okay. I'm like 5 years old at the time. Amazing. It blew my mind and pretty much created the movie nerd you see before you. So
I mean,
yeah,
did
I
you
had to
know
have
that she
I
was
had to have
playing-
James Bond on my list.
by the way, can we all agree that Octopussy is still the greatest James Bond movie name of all time?
Name, yes. Movie, no.
No, not a great movie. However, Octopussy.
But yeah. Yes. So yeah, no, but I had to have Bond on there. And from Russia with Love, if it's not my favorite Connery Bond, it's probably my second favorite behind Goldfinger. So it had to be on the list. And since we were doing strict sequels, I stuck with From Russia with Love.
No, I agree with you. It does fit within those rules of a strict sequel.
And I like it better than Dr. No.
I
That
think
might be sacrilege to some fans, but
you know my favorite Bond movie. I always go From Russia with Love. That's my top one, and then I follow up with GoldenEye, and then Skyfall's right after. But
Yeah.
sequel is like part one or part A, and then Casino Royale part B for number three. I mean, they're so close and so good. So,
Plus, you also had Robert Shaw from Jaws as the villain. Right.
I will share this story. It's been about 10 years or so, but we did a midnight screening of at the Inwood Theater of Jaws. It was the first time I think any of us had actually seen it on the big screen. It was summer. They had school kids there. I mean,
it was so great night. Such a great night.
We had whiskey flasks. We actually met a guy who was just like us in line and taking up a couch. They had an inflatable shark that was being passed around the audience. Schoolgirls in front of us, schoolgirls behind us just screaming. But they did trivia that night. And the trivia question is, Robert Shaw, he was the villain in what James Bond movie? And I was the first one to get the hand up. And I still have that Jaws DVD from winning.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and then, everybody's freaking out during the movie, and we're all drunk as shit singing Show Me the Way to Go Home with Robert Shaw and everybody.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a phenomenal evening. Phenomenal.
And we will probably be recreating that next year for the 50th anniversary, because that movie's going to have to be seen on the big screen with a partner.
Yes, 100%.
Can we see it there? Because that's where I saw it 51 years ago.
Really?
Am I the only one in this?
Yes.
That was alive.
Yes, because it was what, a year or two before I was born. I was born 78, so
yeah, it was 3 years before we were born.
Came out in the summer of 75, and that's the theater that I saw it at. My aunt and uncle took me to the Inwood to see it when I was 5.
Yeah, we'll have to make that happen.
That would be great. And I didn't revisit that theater until I saw the Blair Witch Project, and that's when it hit me. I'm like, holy shit, this is where I saw Jaws when I was a kid.
As the youngin in the group, apparently. I'm sorry, my favorite Bond movie is always going to be Never Say Never Again, 1983 with Kim Basinger and Sean. I'm sorry, I can't.
Which is the non-canonical Bond.
Not even a Bond movie. It's just
It's just the remake of Thunderball. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the Roger Moore Thunderball just reshot.
Or no, Connery Thunderball.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I can't help it. It was literally the first Bond film I ever watched, and it's still my favorite.
It's the fourth. It's his fourth movie.
And I mean, the scene where they're coming up from underwater with the nuke is just really nice. It's really cool.
It's a very.
But I will say, the greatest Bond one-liner of all time, though, as many great one-liners as Bond has had, is still Q. And it's at the end of Moonraker when M says, 007, what are you doing? And Q says, I believe he's attempting re-entry, sir.
Oh, that's a dumb movie, but it's still
dumb movie, but still the greatest. Like Desmond Llewellyn steals the entire show with that one line.
His deadpan delivery, as he always did.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting down to the last 2 movies on our list, so we're gonna go with number 2. Chad, what is your number 2 movie?
Going with Cameron again. Judgment Day. Again, something that as low budget as Terminator was, and it was like, they're gonna do a sequel to this thing. What is there really left to tell? Wow. A lot. And it kicked open so many doors as far as effects technology. Again, this was something that Cameron took, basically something that he had created and expanded on it, and rather than something that he had adapted from somebody else, and just ran wild with it. And it was probably the most entertaining film of the early 90s until, I guess, Jurassic a couple years ago.
I figured somebody would pick that before I did. That ended up number 1 for me. Out of all the stuff that we could choose, I mean, it's emotional. The technology they created with the liquid Terminator, everything about that movie is perfect. I mean, you can't really come up with a better movie. And Arnold as the Terminator, especially when he's trying to explain Skynet to the doctor, and rips off the skin. It's just everything about that movie. And Linda Hamilton, oh my God. She was
That
great.
movie by itself is the only reason we have more Terminator sequels.
Yeah.
If you really boil it down, none of the sequels have anything to do with the original at all. They are all sequels to the Terminator 2 Judgment Day movie.
Yeah. I mean,
100%.
Terminator.
And all far inferior to them.
Well,
Absolutely.
I mean, Terminator 3 kind of continues the story, and it's not a bad movie in of itself. I mean, it is kind of good. And, well, it's a very average movie, but it's nowhere on the same level as Terminator 2 Judgment Day. In fact, I mean, you honestly could have literally never made another Terminator movie after Judgment Day, and it would have ended that franchise
On a high note. Yeah, perfectly.
No.
But I mean, at the same time, I did like the Sarah Chronicles series that they had for a couple of seasons. I thought that was very well. Summer Glau as a Terminator.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that was trippy.
yeah,
And Lena Headey. I mean, come on.
yeah,
And Shirley freaking Manson as the freaking
yeah.
that's the overarching villain in the thing. That
Well,
was
that series
God,
also.
I had such a crush on her garbage in the 90s. Oh, my Lord.
Brian,
your number one crush, Brendan?
Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah, probably.
what's his face? Brian from 90210.
210. Yeah. I forget his last name, but yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't even bad in it. He was pretty good, actually.
But it made you realize that he wasn't that young pipsqueak that was so annoying on that teen show that's like, wow, you are actually kind of a badass. And I can see you as an action star. So, I mean, I remember seeing that with my dad in the theater. And that was just like the highlight of the summer. I ended up seeing it like 3 different times. And I don't think they've never really been able to top it. It's like, I mean, Genesis is kind of a stupid movie. I mean, it has some funny little one-liners and whatever. They kind of veer off into another timeline and blah, blah, blah. But there was no reason to even make that movie. And I didn't hate Dark Fate at all, for what it is. But out of all the Terminator movies, am I wrong? You're just never going to be that. That's your right there. So, wow. I was wondering if somebody was going to put that on your on the list. All right, yeah, that ended up being my number one. I just wasn't going to be typical. I was going to throw out something that I figured
Probably what my number one is.
Yeah. However, I'm very glad that when Chad said it's another camera movie, he didn't say Avatar 2.
Shit.
Because you would have gotten nerd cancellation on that one.
I'll just come right out and say it. Motherfucker, please.
Yeah. I will say this.
Nerd, please.
That movie is very good in the theater when Daniel /hippie grandma, Daniel Durrett /hippie grandma gives you a brownie right before and it kicks in about halfway.
Let's see. You need to take one about 45 minutes prior just so you can enjoy the whole thing.
I know.
Because otherwise you're not going to.
Well, he got there late, so that's why it didn't officially kick in until
Daniel didn't show up on time. I'm shocked.
I know. All right, Jimmy, what is your number 2?
Damn, shade.
It's actually Terminator 2 Judgment Day. No, it is. But I will say this. I did have another movie that was kind of waiting in the wings that was also like a dark horse like nomination. It is Rambo First Blood Part 2.
I was thinking that too. Written by the same guy. He wrote the screenplay for it.
It's such a good movie. It's a Vietnam War movie, kinda. It's Rambo just doing straight up freaking action. It introduces the trope of Rambo holding a bazooka for some reason and shooting arrows that explode. What 10-year-old boy is not going to be like, that's freaking awesome? No. I learned to shoot a bow and arrow because I like that movie.
As Deadpool said in the latest film, get your special sock out.
I'm telling you. And so that, like, That's gonna be my number two, just because it was competing so close with Terminator 2 that
You know,
like I had that tug in my heart.
here's the thing about Rambo movies. Don't get me wrong, I love Rambo movies. Except the last one. I don't really, there was no reason to make him taking on a drug cartel.
No, there was not.
I mean, him tricking out the farm, the homestead in Arizona to travel was kind of cool, but it's like, yeah, we don't really care.
We already saw
Actually, I
Home
didn't
Alone.
like the 2008 one either, but that's for specific reasons I can get into later.
Right, dude. I mean, when they're, killing people with the mines or making them run in the mud patch, and he just shows up and fucking kills everybody with like
Wreck shit with a freaking
yeah, I mean,
50 caliber. Yeah.
right.
It
That's
is.
great.
Yeah, no, that's it. It was literally the most visceral, gory action I think I've ever seen in my life for that type of movie. Me was shocked. I was a college graduate, and I was like, "Good God!"
When he decapitates the dude with a machete.
Good
It's
lord.
like, why? This is not
Well, I
necessary.
mean, let's face it. Don't we want all child molesters for that to happen to?
I mean,
Oh, just the way he
sure.
takes out the main guy at the end when he just guts him and
Yeah,
he's just
I'm like,
staring him right in the face.
um,
It was a lot. It was a lot, and that
Oh,
was a choice, and it was a lot.
but here's a question. Speaking of Rambo Part 2, so they came out with about within 2 years of each other. And I feel like this was very pro 80s and, I mean, very 80s movies, but also trying to remember the Vietnam War without it being so sad. But two movies that dealt with finding POWs. Rambo for, two. And then you had the Gene Hackman, Patrick Swayze movie, Uncommon Value. Great movie.
Also, you had Missing in Action Braddock with Chuck Norris,
Shit.
all right around the same time.
Yeah.
Don't forget Bat 21 and
Bat 21.
there was like a whole slew of those movies that came
Right,
out. Like,
finding POW.
Remember, the Missing in Action sequel was actually its prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were released out of order.
So here's the question. Out of all of these 80s movies that dealt with finding POWs, which one would be at the top of your list to watch?
Rambo.
Exactly.
I don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the art house person in me would say, was it Deer Hunter?
Well, that was in the 70s, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then yes, Rambo, 100%.
No, I mean, Deer Hunter is an incredible movie. I did a correspondence course through LSU on the Vietnam War, and part of our assignment is we had to watch two movies, two different ideas about the Vietnam War. We watched Green Beret with John Wayne, which is very much a propaganda film. Okay, not even his best film. And you don't really believe John Wayne at that point in his life as a Green Beret. But then you had the Deer Hunter. And I remember watching the Deer Hunter for the for the first time. And like the Suicide was like, God damn, I'm going to take a break and drink alcohol. But, in the 80s, yeah, Uncommon Valor, great movie. The Art House, that's the one. It's emotional. It's everything about it. But from an action standpoint of what we really want to do to rescue POW, fucking Rambo.
Well, okay. And I will say this about, since it is my pick, Rambo Part 2, it just like Aliens and Terminator 2 are such a departure from the original. The first Rambo First Blood, which I don't really understand why they call the sequel First Blood as well, since it's First Blood Part 2, whatever.
And then the next one's just called Rambo 3.
Nomenclature aside, the first movie, if you really sit down and watch it, it's a masterclass in like the emotional side of being a soldier.
Yeah.
That I don't know of many other movies that do it as well.
Yeah.
And
Hunted with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
Is probably your best one at that.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's a great movie. I love that movie. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a movie that really dealt with, PTSD from the Vietnam War. And the funny thing is, he dies in the book, and they actually filmed that scene.
Yeah, he does.
So it's but test audiences hated it. And Sylvester Stallone was like, no, you have to have a story of hope. And even though he went through all this, you have to see it. And he's right. Okay. It doesn't matter about 80s pro-America propaganda and all other movies. It's from an emotional standpoint, it has to be him accepting everything, them accepting what happened, that you're all wrong and that this should have been dealt with differently, and the song at the end. So I love the book. I read the book in college, but that movie is much more emotional, and Sylvester Stallone was absolutely right the way they did it. So,
By the way, what you just said is exactly one of the things that is wrong with the sequel that shall not be named, that just came out. Just saying.
we're
Moving
going to
on.
talk about that. Yeah,
Awesome.
oh my God. Yeah, that's why HBO Max has to make a Harry Potter series, because you're losing money off some fucking bullshit and making a sequel to Joker, which nobody asked for and nobody needed, but whatever.
Oh, and the director didn't want to do.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, by the way, I fully believe that the title Folie à Deux is not an error of two characters, but an error of making the director make a sequel he didn't want to make.
Yeah.
He absolutely trolled the studio by making a movie he knew would fail.
Yeah, probably. All right, Brendan, what is your number 2?
So I'm going to throw another honorable mention out real quick, and it's going to be The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Because I loved it. It's a great sequel, but it wasn't enough to crack my top 10. My number 2 is a lot of your guys' number 3. It's Aliens.
Okay. Fair.
So we've already talked about it, so we can move on.
All right. Well, as I said, I mean, like, number 1 for me is, T2 Judgment Day. I see no better, more emotional movie or whatever. I mean, there's a lot that go in there. And I thought about The Dark Knight too, from like a superhero standpoint. It's a great movie, and that kind of was in my top 10, but didn't make the top 5. It's the same way as Superman 2. But I think Superman 2 is a little kind of on the nose as well. I almost kind of consider Superman 1 and 2 just one big giant movie.
It was actually.
Yeah.
That's how it was intended to be shot. That's how it was shot.
Right. So, but yeah, The Dark Knight, incredible movie. And
So serious.
I don't know who, after Heath Ledger's psychotic performance as the Joker, it's like, I don't know how anybody can top that. He's still not the best in my book. I'm always going to take Jack Nicholson, but it's hard to get to that level.
But there are so many different faces. To me, I've grown to, there's an acceptance for me with the Joker, because look, the big mistake stories have, especially the Joker, the movie The Joker doesn't need a backstory. It doesn't need a codified backstory. The whole idea is that there are different faces to the Joker, because he's in clown face, right? So you can have a happy Joker, you can have a sad Joker, you can have a whimsical Joker. And we have all these things. Cesar Romero was our whimsical Joker. Jack was our maniacal Joker. Heath was our psychotic Joker. Mark Hamill was our clown prince. Okay, so you have all these different, to me, it's not about who's the best, it's they all bring something different. It's just that movie in particular as a sequel was a very good sequel. It raised the stakes to Batman Begins while not getting caught in one-upsmanship, right? And so I think it's a very worthy sequel, but I think it's just outside of my top 5, and I absolutely loved Aliens. I'm not a huge horror fan. I'm not even a big sci-fi horror fan. There's only 2 sci-fi horror films in my library that I keep forever, and that will be Event Horizon and Aliens.
Yeah. No, I totally actually get that. So, all right. So moving right along, Chad, what is your number 1? What's the one that you put?
Well, since we just beat it to death, that my honorable mention for number 1 is the aforementioned, how I got these scars. But considering that the only time I've ever had surgery, I was a wee lad, all of my 4 or 5 years old, and I brought an action figure into the operating room with me to help me get through the tonsillectomy that I was about to go through. Because at the time, it was the sci-fi saga that I was obsessed with. That sci-fi saga got rebooted and was pleasantly surprised with the first film. Very pleasantly surprised with the first film in the reboot cycle. Then the sequel came out, and I was blown out of the back of the theater. It was one of the first press screenings I ever attended. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I had never been so mesmerized by a digital actor's performance to this day, up to that point, and to
Tim
this.
Roth as Caesar.
No. No, that's the Tim Burton monster.
No. Well, I'm not even talking about that. No. Not as Thade, I think, is who.
No. We're talking about
Andy Serkis.
Yeah,
Andy Serkis. Sorry.
Absolutely, as great as his mocap work and his emotional transference as Gollum was. This thing was mind-blowing to me. I had never been so riveted watching a character that didn't even exist in a physical space in my life as I was watching Caesar go to work in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It was fascinating to watch his origin story in the first one. But this thing, top notch.
Yeah, I love. We did a podcast one time talking about the greatest sci-fi movie, and we did almost an hour just talking about Planet of the Apes, the original with Charlton Heston. And I was not a fan of them trying to reboot this, and then
what was I
really off guard? Like, wow, this was actually really good. But Dawn is the best one of that of all the reboot movies.
Mm-hmm. And it's got Gary Oldman, so there's that.
There is that.
Yeah. So
and the whole thing about great villains we were mentioning earlier, Gary Oldman.
Yeah. Doesn't get better than that.
The guy who can play the best villains and also the best heroes because he's Sirius Black and he's Zorn in I mean I love that man. Like,
screw it. I'm gonna say
I might be a straight man, but I love that man.
Yeah.
Oh, if we had to rank actors, he's literally probably my number 2, no matter what.
He's on the Mount Rushmore. He's on the Mount.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, there's like, if you look at certain actors that just give you an acting clinic of anything that they can do. And one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is fantastic in The Professional.
Oh my God, everyone!
But you know the one that really made me take notice, and it was. For some reason, I had seen it before The Professional because that came out before, but State of Grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great fucking movie.
No, what about his dickhead freaking pimp character in True Romance, for Christ's sake?
I mean, like, he's had so many. Like, it just, like, everything he's in. I don't even like the movie. I know it's sacrilege. I don't even like True Romance as a movie, but I love his character in True Romance.
Such a poser. He's such a damn poser.
But
he has no idea how much of a poser he is.
But every movie he's in, like even if the movie's like shit, it's like, yeah, it's a shit movie, but Gary Oldman's in it, so I'll watch it.
Hey, he did a really great Harry Truman in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that is actually.
He played Harry. Think about this: is a man who played Harry Truman and Winston Churchill
and Sid Vicious, for Christ's sakes.
My God, you got to go with Sid Nancy. Wow, I know, right?
How many?
Talk about range. Talk about fucking range.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How many actors can you say is a true character actor? He is 100% a true character actor who's also a true main character,
a leading man. Yeah,
he's a leading man who's also a real character.
I think the best way to say it and the most respectful way to say it, he is a thespian.
Yeah,
yes.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean,
in the truest sense of the word.
Can we all agree that he really is the best Jim Gordon? I like Jake.
Yes.
Oh hell yes.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
Yeah, so I did not think that somebody was going to have a Planet of the Apes movie on their top 5 list. That's wow.
I almost did. I didn't. It's probably around number 11 for me because it didn't get my honorable mentions either, but it's real close.
Yeah.
But and I'm not even a Planet of the Apes guy. Like even from the original ones, like I recognize their worth to cinema. I recognize that they're very groundbreaking and that they are well done movies. They just never spoke to me personally.
It was a Dr. Zaius action figure, by the way, that I took into the operating.
There you go.
Nice. All right, Jimmy, what is your number 1?
Okay. So here's the problem, right? And if you read what I write, I come at things from like the emotional part of me. That's how I judge movies, is my emotional thing, right? So I actually have 2 movies that are number 1. I couldn't choose. Aliens is actually one of them. We talked about it enough, but this next one is going to completely blow y'all's minds. Are you ready for it?
Okay.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is 100% my favorite movie with aliens.
Okay.
It is completely the opposite. This is why I couldn't choose. Like,
yeah. I mean, technically, it's not a direct sequel because you have European Vacation.
Come on. It is the next movie.
I'm just saying, based on the rules. However, we're going to give you that loophole because it's one of those movies you have to watch every Christmas.
Well, look. Here's my argument. You ready? Okay.
Okay.
Here's my argument, right? 1, growing up, you got A Christmas Story. I fucking hate that movie. I hate the lamp. I'm sorry. It is my sister's generation. I'm sorry, Chad. It's your generation, the Gen Xers. It's y'all. My sister, my older sisters, that's y'all's movie. Couldn't stand it. I'm sorry. It just wasn't me. But then National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation came along, and I'm just like, this is funny. I like Chevy Chase. I mean, like, I didn't know he was an asshole, like a real asshole yet.
Yeah.
It speaks to me on all these levels, right? It is actually funny. And, Aliens, I couldn't choose between that because that is one of those movies, is the same time period. It's that early 80s, it was formative for me. Those 2 movies are truly formative for me. And I can't, this is my choice. This is why.
Yeah, before Randy Quaid kind of went crazy and believing
Go for Go Buffs.
Yeah. His greatest character, honest to God, is Uncle Eddie.
Cousin Eddie, man.
Because we all have an Uncle Eddie.
Cousin Eddie.
It's just, I will give you, that is an awesome, awesome movie.
Sure, Eddie, I can help you out. How much you need? 50. Oh, okay. 1,000.
Cash back in his
dumping the sewage in the sewer from the street and making that a plot point at the end of the movie is so great.
The circle back to it, the payoff, the setup and payoff. How often do we talk about setup and payoff, and how modern writers screw up something so easily? They try to pay off things that they haven't set up, and then they set up things they never pay off.
See, I'll be honest.
The dog drinking the tree water that dries up. The cat in the tree burns down. It set up a payoff, man. That movie is
the turkey they left in the oven way too long and have it just go.
So good.
No, I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus, as the neighbor.
The pretentious yuppie neighbor.
Yes.
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I mean,
I don't even watch A Christmas Story every year anymore. I mean, I
haven't watched A Christmas Story in 30 years.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like I offended Chad. I'm sorry, Chad, but I can't.
It's not a go-to Christmas movie for me. But one of my new ones that I've watched every year over the last few years is I love 8-Bit Christmas. That is such a cute and great and funny movie. It's like Goonies and gaming all mixed into one. And for me, it's just nostalgic because it's set in 1988, and that was the year I got my original Nintendo. So I get the adventure and everything about it. And no, it was everything about that movie. To me, that's more nostalgic and a better movie than A Christmas Story for me. But I do recognize A Christmas Story as being a great movie. The sequel that they did, great. I'm glad they got everybody back together. It was cool, blah, blah, blah. But to me, it was also like, let's make a sequel with The Sandlot, and they're all grown now. And I'm like, it's unnecessary because The Sandlot's a movie about kids and the innocence, and the way they ended the movie with Benny the Jet Rodriguez tipping his hat to what's his face as the announcer. It's like, you don't need to.
Smalls.
Yeah. Anyway,
I just realized, by the way, this is I did screw up the assignment today. This is not a sequels top 5 for me. This is a midlife crisis top 5 for me, because these are all movies from my childhood that are formative for me. So,
well, but that's most lists, to be honest, so don't worry.
Yeah.
But and also I'd like to point out that the kid who played Smalls got arrested in the Houston airport a couple of years ago for headbutting a Houston cop. And I really, really hope that Houston cop said, "You're killing me, Smalls."
Couldn't help yourself, could you?
I didn't realize he had gotten arrested. That's funny.
Yeah, he was drunk in the Houston airport, and then he headbutted a Houston cop.
Like you do,
Good.
All right.
Yeah. Great way to get you on with your flight.
What is your number one sequel?
Okay, my last honorable mention is going to be Toy Story 2.
Okay.
Okay, because fantastic. I mean, how often? Like, I'm looking at it at Rotten Tomatoes right now, and granted, we all take Rotten Tomatoes with a grain of salt. But when you have 171, critic reviews, and it's 100%, and you have an 87% fan score with over 250,000 reviews, that's worthy of note. But also my number one is, well, most of your guys' is number 2. It's going to be Terminator 2, because not only is it an amazing sequel, not only is it a sequel that is actually better than the original, even though the original was great. It's a sequel that turns a villain into a bad guy into a hero. So it's a redemption story. And on top of all that, you introduce us to one of the coolest new villains of all time in T-1000, which is the greatest upgrade to a villain of all time because you made him molten metal. I mean, come on. And then on top of that, you have Guns N' Roses giving us their magnum opus, and Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 is their entire soundtrack to the movie. There hasn't been a better soundtrack to a movie since Queen did Highlander.
True. By the way, I do love the meme about the redheaded kid that just remember humanity was saved by this kid lying to the cops.
The cops, yeah.
by the way, if we ever want to talk about Highlander, yet another one of my formative movies that I would love to drone on about.
And had the worst sequel of all time.
Say, just to give you a preview movie that's going to end up on the worst sequel list.
Yes.
The shittening.
Yes. Although Sean Connery does have some amazing lines in it.
Oh, he did. I mean, for being such a horrible movie and him making the best of it and getting paid a lot of money to do that sequel, which I think purchased his house in the Bahamas that he retired to, you did deliver.
Yeah. Well, we are the oldest haberdasher in all of Scotland. Well, that's very good, considering I am without a doubt the oldest gentleman in all of Scotland.
I mean, it does speak to, I mean, like, whatever you feel about Sean Connery, it does speak to the person when they get to a movie, they read the script, and it's like, and they still do their best.
For all the thing, I will say this about T2 and Arnold Schwarzenegger, for all this stuff that he went through trying to be a better actor, and and I love the fact that he credits James Earl Jones for really being his mentor on Conan and making him better at his craft. No, he's not a great actor, but he's a great action star. And I felt
like a great entertainer.
Yeah. I felt like in T2, he brought the best of everything to being a great action star, being robotic and emotional at the same time. that, you really felt everything, and the way that he just kind of delivered those lines. Like, I love when everything.
It's his best performance.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on.
All the way is, come on.
So, now, I mean, Kindergarten Cop.
Now it's my turn to give you side eye.
Kindergarten Cop's a great movie, but yeah, I mean, from an action standpoint.
Actually, I was going to say True Lies was his best.
That is true. That is such a great movie. Why
Right.
decided to do a series on that show, which only lasted like 6 episodes before they, decided.
Realized, yeah, like you don't have Arnold, you don't have Jamie Lee Curtis, and honestly, probably most importantly for that movie, you don't have Tom Arnold.
By the way,
okay, who is the glue that makes that movie? And then Charlton Heston as the head of the Omega Division.
Heston is the fake spy. I tell you, if you want just absolutely comedic genius and timing on everything, the scene, where he skips the page out of the list, he's flipping through it. Give it to me now, and breaks it.
Got that page.
And then there's the scene where they go into where they're listening to the guy, and Tom Arnold is just like, oh my God, this guy is great. He's ripping us off, starts laughing. Oh, but we definitely got to kill him.
Yeah. And by the way, another Bill Paxton.
Oh shit.
But no, one of the best scenes in the movie, Bill Paxton in the convertible with Jamie Lee Curtis, and all they can see is like the heat vision thing, and it's the entire innuendo, like the entire drive is so perfect.
Anyway, all right. So I'm going to end this with my favorite honorable mention. I can throw in Superman 2, but I did take a cue from Chad that, really Superman 1 and 2 is like one big movie and whatnot. So I didn't put it in my list with superhero. And The Dark Knight, I absolutely agree with. But for me as a sci-fi fan, and because I struggled as a critic not to give it a perfect score and finally gave up and just said, fuck it is perfect, Blade Runner 2049. To me, that is it pretty much is a perfect sci-fi film. The pacing, I loved everything about it, and it's emotional right up until the end. I love how they keep tricking you, making you think that Ryan Gosling, really is their child, until you finally realize in that moment that, oh, it's not. It's the one that gives them their memories. She lives in a bubble. And just the very last scene with Harrison Ford, emotional, beat up, putting his hand on the glass. And if you talk about how you do a sequel to a movie that really didn't need a sequel, and you're like, how are you not going to fuck up the original that's so good? And then you're like, because to me, that's in the same category as Top Gun Maverick. Like, when they announced it, I was like, I don't think you need to do this. I'm interested, but you're going to somehow fuck it up. And then you walk away like, well, no, you did not. This is a good movie. So that's my big honorable mention more than anything else. Agree or disagree? Everybody's like, we don't want.
I like you as a friend, Marcus. I don't want to hurt your feelings.
No, I'm the only one that loves Blade Runner 2049. Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's an honorable mention. It's not on the list, so we don't have to argue it.
I mean, I think maybe I'm tainted because I love the original so much.
All right.
When I saw the sequel, I'm just like, doesn't hold a candle for me.
All right.
Hey, and like I said, I judge so many things just from a place of emotion. What am I going to do?
So what's your number one, Marcus? That's what we're all waiting to hear.
I mentioned it earlier.
Okay, there.
Yeah, but I will say this: not necessarily a direct sequel, but in the same universe. So I'm just going to throw it out there and throw in a weird loophole as a sequel to another great movie, but not really the same story. Fucking Hot Fuzz.
Oh yeah,
as we can all agree, that's a great movie.
Hey, if we're going to be throwing out great comedies that were sequels or kind of sequels, Ace Ventura 2 is actually really fucking fun. I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, the whole Africa safari thing, and it's just great. Look, there's no better meme than Jim Carrey coming out of a rhino's asshole.
Yeah,
to make it great.
I'll throw another one out there just for the sake of argument. It's like I still really love Clerks 2.
Oh,
It's obviously not as good as the first one, but I love they were able to do more. The fact that Kevin Smith worked in a donkey show, that was hilarious in the whole thing. So anyway,
So somebody just asked me on Twitter, what happens if you have Scoops Ahoy ice cream with Stay Puft marshmallows? And I said, Rocky Road. Hey, you guys.
Oh God.
speaking of it, I know it's been in development hell for years. It keeps getting announced, blah, 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 that we're going to get a sequel to the Goonies. So I'm going to ask one final question. Do we really need a sequel at this point of the Goonies, even with the original cast and like a new generation of kids? Do we really need it? I am going to say no. I don't.
Whether we need it or not, we're getting one this fall this next month with the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Or the final season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, but it's really, I mean, if you watch the Skeleton Crew trailer, I mean, it's Goonies Star Wars. It's 100% what it is.
Yeah, they basically said that. I don't really care. I'm still going to say
and it might still be enjoyable. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying that's what it is.
Yeah, but as making a sequel to Goonies at this point, do we really need it?
No.
all right. So being the guy who who the formative years was Spielberg's heyday, with Goonies, with all that. Okay. I'm not looking forward to it.
I'll say this.
Childhood ruined that much.
I'll allow it under one condition. We're tossing Corey Feldman a mea culpa because we ruined his career for calling out the truth.
There you go.
If you're doing it as a mea culpa to restart Corey Feldman's career and give him a ton of money because he called out the truth for what Hollywood was doing to kids and everybody made fun of him and ruined his career, then 100% I'm behind it and I'll go see it 10 times, even if it sucks.
Right.
Hey, I agree with you on that. I will say this though, if they do that, Corey Feldman, I just hope he does a decent job. I'm sorry, too many of these child 80 actors, when you see them later on, it's like,
if we're going to give a movie to Corey Feldman that's a sequel of another movie that he did just to get him paid, that another movie that was really funny, then I say let's get a sequel to The Burbs.
There you go. Fair enough.
Yes, cast back. Well, not all of them, obviously, but at the same time, I'd watch that. All right, everybody. We'll be back for part 2 of this podcast with the worst sequels of all time that should have never been made, and
it's gonna be spicy.
Yeah,
we're ready for controversy.
Yeah, obviously. All right, everybody. It is time to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody, nerds.